Thanks for checking out Scotties Hobbies. Today we're looking at a 4L60E on a 2008 year model vehicle. In a lot of my other videos, I have a lot of people saying don't be a wuss and just pry that gear selector bracket back to be able to get the pan off instead of using your T40 Torx bit to remove it. And there will be a link in the description to buy the bit needed or the socket needed to remove this bracket. So I bent it back, making sure that I pried on the transmission and the bracket only, so I didn't bend the pan or break that linkage. Went back as far as I felt was comfortable without breaking anything. You can see that looks pretty good, pretty far. First, make sure you loosen the collectors on the driver's side and passenger exhaust. To do that, you've got to take off both side oxygen sensors as well. So make sure you have your oxygen sensor socket handy and a long extension to get up to those collectors. Remove all your pan bolts, set them off to the side. They shouldn't be on there too tight. When you put the pan back on, you'll see the torque on them isn't heavy at all. If you need any parts such as the filter or tools used to get this job done, make sure you look for a link in the description below. Here we go, we got everything loosened up. We're just going to drop the pan, real easy. This one was really fast since we only bent the bracket back. Make sure you have a catch pan and a lot of pig pads on the floor for this job as well. Fluid does have a tendency to get everywhere. I don't know why they didn't put a drain plug on here. You know what? I couldn't get the pan off with that bracket just bent back comfortably. Might have put some more pressure on it and pried it back more, but comfortably it would not come out with that bracket still on there. So here I am using the T40 Torx bit that will be in the description below to buy one. You can see it's a pretty easy fitment. The socket or bit fits right behind the electrical part on your gear selector, so you don't have to remove that either. It just slides right behind it. I removed the back bolt that holds the bracket down. I removed it completely so it will pivot on that front bolt that's loosened up. Also makes it easier when you're reassembling later. Set that bolt off to the side so you don't lose it. Now you should be pretty free to just drop your pan. I try to make sure I keep the fluid into a clean catch pan so I could sift through it or put it through like a coarse coffee filter so I could see if there's any metal shavings or anything. If you run into this problem right here, the pan is getting stuck on the shift solenoids. In that case, you have to loosen your exhaust much more to get it out. For some reason, I didn't record that, but that's what I had to do was remove the flanges all the way. I had them loosened up. With your filter, just go ahead and pull straight down on it. Try not to go side to side because you don't want to break it and give yourself much more work. So I pivot it while I'm pulling down on the actual shaft that goes up into the pump. It slides right out, really easy. It's going to make a bigger mess. Same thing, try to keep that from getting extra contaminants in it so you can just take a look and see what you're working with. Clean off the surface area where your pan fits up to the transmission, preferably with a lint-free cloth. Get it nice and clean. You don't want anything to drip on there, just so you get a good, nice seal. Again, you're not going to torque these down too much, so you got to keep it as clean as possible because it is really easy for it to find a leak. I do like to get where it's just dripping off the pan so it's not dripping on the floor or my arm or my face when I'm doing more work. Before you put the pan on, make sure you remove the filter seal. This is a seal removal tool, which there'll be a link in the description to buy one as well. It's always vitally important to replace the seal, even though it's not done every single time by everybody. Trust me. You need to get a good grip on it so you don't bust your knuckles or your face. This gets pretty good actually. Here it goes. Oh, no, didn't come out. Take some time. It's not going to come out your first try. You're going to want to give up on it. Here I tried every position. And you got to also be careful that you don't hit one of your solenoids when your remover like that loses grip. That was a nice little forehead buster right there. Here, we're going to speed this up a little bit. This is actually me speeding up life, not the computer speeding up the video. Just kidding. Like I said, it takes a while to get it out, but you need to be careful with it, gentle with it as much as possible. You are going to put a couple dents. You can see I lost my grip and hit the camera again. Here you can put the filter seal right on the filter itself, lube it up a little, and press it in. Just push, give it a nice little tap, and it'll go right in. I'll show you that method in just a minute. You could also use this method, which I'm using a 6-inch extension on a 20mm 3/8 socket to press the seal in. This is a pretty commonly used way, but this way, much easier, faster, and you don't ruin the seal every time. Use a little bit of assembly lube, get the hair out of there. Put your assembly lube on it, right on the tip. Set it on your filter. You're going to set it into the pump and just give it a nice little thud. Not going to go too hard. You don't want to break anything. Don't use a hammer or anything. And after you get it pressed in like this, make sure you give it a little tug. Make sure so that it won't fall out while you're driving around. Even though there is suction on it and it should suck it up. When I do my pans, I usually use guide bolts like you can see in the transmission right now. Usually makes it easier. The filter kit that was provided to me this time on this job had a different gasket that I'm used to using, which usually lays flat right onto the pan, and I can push it right up onto the transmission using the guides, and it's easier to put all the bolts in by hand. In this case, it was a smaller rubber gasket where it was easier to push all your bolts through. The gasket would hold it, and then you could start it by hand. The bolts by hand, that is. So they both have their advantages. I've not worked with this rubber one as much, but it did make it kind of easy holding the bolts up there for you. So either one is good. Make sure you get them all finger tightened down. The biggest thing is that you do not want to get anything cross-threaded. You can see I'm going by hand around the whole pan to get them nice and snug. And just a screwdriver with a 13mm socket adapter on it. Got the torque wrench out, and we're going to properly torque all of these bolts to proper torque specification. Everything you do on this transmission, make sure you do that. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, and share while you're watching. To properly torque these down, the torque specification is only 9 foot-pounds. I honestly have mine set to 11 foot-pounds, and that's still really light too. I'm using a 3/8 torque wrench. There will be a link in the description to buy one of these as well. You could use a 1/4 inch, I would assume, but my 3/8 works just as well. So I went around the whole pan, made sure everything is nice and tight to factory specifications, and then went ahead and tightened everything else up, such as the exhaust collectors, your linkage right here, and your oxygen sensors. You will find a link in the description to buy all the parts shown in the video. Also, the fluid to top off your vehicle with. I believe this vehicle took about 6 quarts when we're all said and done. Make sure you purchase your parts in the description, please. That helps me out a lot. And check out my other awesome videos. Check out scottieshobbies.com and facebook.com/scottieshobbies. Check out these other videos, and I will hopefully see you on the next, hopefully, hopeful video. That's way too many hopefuls. I know.